52% of ChatGPT users are women, which is crazy.
Woo! Let's
Woo! We
go,
beat the
girls.
boys. January 2024, it was only 36% of users were women.
Wow.
We are entering in this future of work.
Do you think an MBA is still worth it in today's day and age?
For most people, I would say no. In 20 years, most of us are going to be working for ourselves. The only thing that is like stopping you is really you. If you want to work for a company just because your parents want you to, or because like it seems like a cool thing, or because you may be earning, more than six figures, like if you're thinking in those terms, eventually you may just be laid off.
It sounds like, though, you had a pretty strong sense of this is what I know I don't want. For young people listening who are feeling like, well, I'm really lost, is it a gut feeling, or were you looking at these situations and you're going, this just is not right, this isn't for me?
I think it's
Welcome back to Founders and Genes. I'm your host, Emily Jean. And before we get into the episode, I just want to say a huge thank you so much for listening to my podcast. It means the world to me. I also wanted to say that if you enjoy the show, feel free to leave a review on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to this, and also to follow us. You can follow us on Spotify, of course. You can follow us on Instagram at Founders and Genes. You can also find me on Instagram at emily.genes, or you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with people on there, and I have a lot of good conversations from listeners. Also, you can always leave a bad review for us. I'm totally fine with that. And in fact, I think that's exciting. I would love to know what we can do to improve. So you can also leave comments below and let me know what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. I actually do read every single one. We also have a newsletter that comes out once a week, so you can get all the updates from us. We also put in some weekly business and marketing updates in there, as well as some personal notes from me. You can subscribe to that on my LinkedIn, also through the Instagram and in the show notes below. Anyways, that is all from me. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. I hope it's a good one, and I'll chat to you soon. Lauren Gibson of Letter Launched, welcome to Founders and Genes. I am so excited to talk to you today. I see your posts on LinkedIn all the time, so this is I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity.
I feel the same.
Well, so for people who don't know you, why don't you give me a little bit of a background about yourself?
Thank you, Emily, and I'm so happy to be on. Well, I have been all over the world, traveled to 44 countries. I've done a lot of cool things, working in Web3, taught English in Tunisia. But honestly, for much of my life, I actually suffered from depression. And I used to write in my journal a lot. And I have 15 years of writing in my journal. And I realized that I wanted to take what I love doing and to take my own self-actualization journey into this business creation process that I have entered in today. So this is a topic that I think a lot of us are entering in because we're entering in this future of work, as I like to say, with the changing of the way that we work, the white collar workers. And I hope to be a voice for that. And that is why I'm here with you today.
For people who are not really sure exactly what you do, how do you explain what you do? I know that you have a big focus on newsletter and communication strategy, but why is that?
Yeah. So I help coaches and founders and agency owners with their email marketing and newsletters. And for anyone who's starting a business, I will say that a lot of people tell you to niche down, and that is exactly true. But what I will say on top of that is that just get clients. So
Hmm.
I did not immediately choose the niche of coaches, agency founders, but I realized those were the people that were paying me.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to share that that is, if someone were to start a business, especially a service-based business, which is the easiest business to start, that is the route to go, is to just try to work for anyone and see who wants to work for you.
Mhm. I love that. I've actually heard that advice before, and I think it's very smart. Like, you kind of start broad, and over time, you have the ability to become more specific. So, yeah, I think that's very, very applicable advice. So, I guess I want to kind of go back a little bit then. I know before you mentioned, you've done Web3, global travel, fintech, all those things. How has that kind of path shaped to the work you are doing now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we all have different paths that we walk we and when we're entering new spaces like starting a business, we may see that the path and the lines may not connect, but that's just how it may feel in the moment. And so there's the Steve Jobs quote from his Stanford address that he says that you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. And so that's why I love this idea of how do the dots connect, because I would never have connected these dots looking
Mm,
forward. When I was 20 years old and I wanted to be working in the United Nations, the only dot that I could connect is that I loved my time in France when I was 15 living with a host family, because that was one
mhm,
of the happiest moments that I had felt. And so I connected that dot looking forward, and I tried working in the nonprofit world where I worked in human rights and democracy in Egypt. And then I realized, well, I want to work in this space. So I need to get more work in this space for me to move up into like working for the United Nations.
mhm,
And I also realized that I wanted to get a master's potentially at a school like Georgetown, which I ended up going to, but not in the same field.
mhm,
So I decided, well, if I can continue, what can I do to continue working in this space? And it was perhaps just to teach English, just to live there for something. So what can I do? I can speak English, so maybe
mm,
I can teach it, right? So I taught English for a year in Tunisia,
mm,
and then I realized that this space of nonprofit work and working abroad was maybe not for me, because I had a lot of weird experiences in North Africa that made me see that the nonprofit space was not the path that I wanted to walk anymore.
mhm,
And
mhm,
how I wanted to impact the world was actually perhaps in a field that I always enjoyed as a child, which was that of technology.
mm,
But in my youth, did not pursue technology or engineering because it was scary as a woman. So I tried joining the engineering club in my school in high school, but I was always the only woman. And for some reason I felt like like a stranger to this space, and I
mm,
wasn't technical enough to continue to live or continue to want to work in this space. Little did I know that there's so many other types of roles than, being a highly technical engineer. And I found love within international relations. So I decided to pursue that path, but I could not connect the dots, like looking forward, as I say, realizing that, there are actual other roles in technology that I could take to work in this space. And
mm,
I recognize the importance of technology in the Middle East, North Africa, which was my concentration for for undergrad. How like what actually impacted those countries during the Arab Spring, which was one of the most impactful like events in the modern history of of Arab world. It was of and what was the driving force? It was that of technology, because people were
mhm,
able to access Twitter, and so that they were able to actually film on social media and share all the atrocities that were happening in different cities. So I am talking like about a lot of different points about like my life and what I have seen and the connections I've made. And all of those little points have made me realize that storytelling and communication and communicating your story is like the last thing that we have left. So
mm,
even if
mhm,
I would not have succeeded in those spaces of working in nonprofit work or working or working in web3 and crypto, which I did for a couple years as well, and I worked for the co-founder of Ethereum, and that was an incredible eye-opening experience to the world of Web3, which is definitely run by a lot of degens, as
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
say. And I recognize that even though these experiences could be seen as failures because I did not completely pursue them, they still helped me define who I was and what is the golden thread that has tied everything together for me. It is this connective element between people, ideas, and technology.
Hmm.
And so I understand today that I have had these varied experiences because I wanted to tell an amazing story of my life so that I can be fully invested in the growth that I want to have. And
Hmm.
I have only now gotten there. But honestly, it is always a process of becoming. And I think that that is what we learn, especially as we create our own businesses. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for young people listening to this who are feeling like, well, I'm really lost and like I hear what you're saying about the dots will connect looking back. It sounds like though you had a pretty strong sense of this is what I know I don't want or this is what I know I do want. What like how did you cultivate that? Is it a gut feeling or were you looking at these situations and you're going this just is not right. This isn't for me.
I think it's easy to look at it as it was in the past to say, oh, that wasn't difficult. But
Mhm.
when you're in the moment, and you're going through these emotions and these feelings of, I don't know what to do. I don't have anyone who believes in me. I don't know how to make money on the internet, let's say, but I see other people doing it. We just have to try and we have to put ourselves out there.
Mm,
And I recommend challenging yourself and first asking the question, like, when was the last time that you failed? Because if you can ask yourself and answer that question, when is the last time you failed? Do you really see that as a failure? Or do you see it as a learning opportunity? So I think that if we can somehow get ourselves out of this analysis paralysis that
mhm,
can exist within us because there are so many options out there and now AI can do so much for us and everyone's creating content and I'm not going to stand out. We can tell ourselves all these stories, but what
mhm,
is really going to move the needle is just us doing something and knowing that our story and all the connections that we've made in our lives through our family and our work and our travels and who we are as people, that is going to be the factor that is going to actually like tell the story that we like will live in later on. And
mhm,
so it's not important to write the story in the beginning because what I want to share is that for 6 months or so, I was wanting to create a business and I was trying all these different frameworks and all these different techniques. I was speaking to a friend earlier about this from Georgetown, who where I did my MBA, and I mentioned Georgetown as well because a lot of people I have seen in the MBA space have actually been laid off and they haven't been able to find a job. And so
mhm,
that's something that I want to voice about because I recognize that we are entering this new way of work where people who may have been paid six figures for a high level master's program are not being able to find a job. Like, that's crazy. That's
mhm,
crazy. And so I see people who go through these, like, well-educated programs, and they have this analysis paralysis because it is so difficult to start from a new space when you previously only know working for a big company like Amazon or McKinsey or
mhm,
Deloitte or a big bank, right? It's hard to start when you know that there is no one who is going to be giving you KPIs or review, right? So I spent better half of 6 months just learning and learning and learning, and that never went to waste because I do implement some of the work that I have learned a year ago into my workflow. But the only thing that is like stopping you is really you. And so you
mm,
just gotta like make it happen today, not just because there's other people like thinking about you, but because like you are the author of your own life and you might as well just like write an amazing story. And even if you're in the worst part of it right now, it's gonna make a great story.
yeah. Absolutely. I have to ask then, out of curiosity, and I know this is a topic on a lot of people's minds. Do you think like an MBA is still worth it in today's day and age?
Yeah, great question. And for most people, I would say no.
Mm,
I would say no because we're just completely entering a new way of work, and these companies are making more money than ever with a smaller workforce. And so they're already telling us that they don't need us. And
mhm,
and a person who's actually going to do really well in a company in the future is someone. It's not that we're going to have AI, "Oh, amazing, we're only gonna have 20-hour weeks." For some of these companies, some people will still be working 60-hour weeks, but instead of
mhm,
them managing 5 people, they're managing 5 AI agents. And
mhm.
so it's still hard for them because they're expected to work 60, 80-hour weeks perhaps. They're working even more. I mean, I'm seeing people who work in banking, we're seeing, oh, people are there's less need for junior analysts now because of AI. That's great.
Right.
But there are still kids, like kids who are fresh out of school, and they're getting so burnt out from their job that they're going to the hospital. So
Mhm,
I don't think that AI is going to solve burnout culture for some of these more like elite corporate companies. And I don't and unless you really want to work for a Meta, like it is legit your dream to be in that space and to make a change in that technology. If you want to work for a company like that just because your parents want you to, or because like it seems like a cool thing, or because you may be earning, more than six figures, like if you're thinking in those terms, eventually you may just be laid off. And
mhm.
that's a hard fact to realize, but it's because you're not dedicating all of your time to that company, because that company
Right.
wants you to like put your all of your energy in that. And it's okay, though. I think this new way of work is going to be okay, and we are gonna have to learn to live with it, because there
Mhm,
are really smart people like Naval Ravikant who
mhm,
says that in 20 years, most of us are gonna be working for ourselves. And the
mhm,
interesting part about that is that we'll be working for ourselves and we'll be doing all this little contract work. So,
mhm,
yes, you can take 2-month vacation because you've set up your business structure in such a way that you don't have clients between July and August. And so you take those 2 months off. And that's why I think like business education is actually going to be an incredibly valuable skill, but business education with an MBA, what they teach you is critical thinking, which is an incredibly valuable skill, definitely in the age of AI, but they're also funneling you into jobs that practically will not exist in a few years. So,
yeah,
although I do respect where what I have gained from that, because I was told in high school that it doesn't matter where you go to college, it only matters where you go to your MBA, your master's.
mm,
So I went to Florida State, which is just a regular state school, because I heard, just think about your master's, because your master's is like your last piece of education usually, unless you get a PhD. And so
mhm,
that's your last place where you got your education, is usually like considered well. I don't know
mhm,
why I followed that advice though still, because I still never really followed the paradigm of wanting to
mhm,
work in corporate or anything, but maybe it's because was always this desire in me to still like care about what other people thought of me, and
mhm,
care about like where like like how I was perceived in the world, even though the decisions that I made may have seemed like I would not have cared. Like,
mhm.
I one time dyed my hair pink, but for example, Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, I'm curious then for you've been ahead of the curve in a lot of ways on AI, and you speak a lot about it as well within LinkedIn. So I want to ask, I guess, how have you been able to implement AI? Like, what does it look in your day-to-day workflow? And also, how were you able to do that so seamlessly? Like, what was the thought process behind that?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. Excuse me. Recently, I saw that ChatGPT, OpenAI, just released excuse me, this report, and OpenAI's report said that um, 52% of ChatGPT users are women, which is crazy. Yeah, I know we did it!
Let's
Woo! We
go,
beat the
girls.
boys! Because back in January 2024, it was only 36% of users were women.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That is
it's
so
interesting that
interesting.
the world is like 50-50, which is also crazy. Like
Yep.
definitely something
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just I test out a lot of apps and I test out different LLMs. So from a high level, what I would say is that there's not just ChatGPT. There's
Mhm.
also Claude, and Claude is
Mhm.
by a company called Anthropic. So if you hear that, that is what that is. And Claude is very good with writing. So if you can create a Claude project, you can put in your brand voice doc, which I do for my clients in writing their newsletters, and you can
Mhm.
put in examples of their previous writing, and it can do a pretty good job of matching it if you want to create a newsletter, for example, from just a few pieces of content.
Mhm.
So you could do that, and also uh there are some laws about, like, creating content from AI that I just want to highlight that I recently learned from, like, an AI trademark attorney, that if you are prompting AI, just I think this is very important for maybe your listeners. If you're prompting AI for an idea and then it gives you, like, a script, or it gives you a logo, it gives you that is not yours.
Hmm.
So it's something to consider, especially for people who are trying to create content or maybe trying to trademark something. You have to be very careful with some of the AI like content makers, because if you see in their description, they may say to you that this work that you've generated is actually owned by the company. So
Hmm.
that's the case with logo.ai. If you create a logo with that, you can never trademark that logo if you created it with that AI system, because that is owned by the company. So I think there's some, like, education to be had around AI in that respect, but that's just another topic. But going back to the
Yeah.
different LLMs that I use ChatGPT for any time I just have, like, a random question that's related to myself that I just want to quickly ask, because what I like about ChatGPT is it does retain all information about you.
Mhm.
It will hallucinate if you're not careful, and that's why if I'm working on client work, or if I'm working on something that's very important to my personal brand, that is when I use Claude, because a Claude project will only use the project files that are located within it.
Okay. Got it.
So Claude is much less likely to hallucinate more than ChatGPT,
Mhm.
because of the limited context window. So a lot of people don't like Claude because there is a limited context window. Something that I'm guess like a lot of people don't know about Claude is that you can also create applications in it, and you can create entire JSON files. So if any of your listeners are into, like, the make.com or N8N automation space, and they see someone create an entire automation, and you can screenshot that animation, like the workflow from a YouTube video. You can just screenshot that. You can put it into Claude and it will recreate the entire code for you to
Wow.
upload into, like, make.com. Yeah, it's insane. So you can just create anything. That's just one idea that you can have. I know when I'm trying to um, create an automation. I'm not technical, as I was saying earlier. If I'm trying to create an automation, I will just, like, literally screenshot what I see, and then I'll put it into, like, ChatGPT or Claude, and I'll ask, like, okay, what's the next step? Like, just
Mhm.
tell me step by step. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people get overwhelmed by AI because it gives you so much information. So
Yeah.
one way to, like, break it down is literally just to tell it to break it down for you. Like,
Mhm.
only tell me the next step. Do not tell me, like, more
Yeah.
steps, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's only focus on this one thing. Otherwise, I'm gonna get so overwhelmed and I'm not
Right.
gonna do
Right.
anything, right?
Right. Right.
So that's, like, another tip that I have, and I also use another LLM is Gemini, which is
Mhm.
really good for creating, like, AI generated podcasts, which is
Mhm.
cool because it can, like, talk back to you. So if there's any students, like, in the house, like, I've heard students really love Gemini because you can create entire videos that will explain your homework for you. It'll create a
Yeah.
podcast, it'll make it sound fun, and Gemini is really good for big context windows. And then the last LLM that I'll use, and I'm only saying LLMs and not apps. So there are apps that will, like, use APIs. So use the application protocols of like an OpenAI, which is
Mhm.
ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. It will use that LLM data as a third party. But the other one that is an LLM actually is Perplexity. And
Mhm.
Perplexity, you can choose to use also the models of ChatGPT, Claude,
Right.
Gemini. You can choose those, but I really have been enjoying Perplexity Comet
Hmm.
because it is AI web search.
Okay.
So it's like I'm not using it right now because I use Arc for my web browser, but it is a web browser that if I'm watching a YouTube video, I can just pull up the AI in the corner and a chatbot appears and I can talk to the YouTube video and I can ask it questions.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
yeah, so instead of using maybe a third party app that's like, okay, YouTube, like, Talker, right? I'm just talking on my screen.
Mhm.
And another use case that I have seen with this is actually me writing something on a Google Doc, and then I can talk to Perplexity, the AI, to ask it to edit the Google Doc and make and put bullet points for every paragraph, or
Hmm.
to change all of the single lines to heading 2 or something.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you will
Mhm.
see it actually this red line appear around your screen, and it will be doing it in real
Hmm.
time for you,
That's
and
crazy.
you'll be able to see on the side it says, I am highlighting the text now, and you're like, oh my god, like, do I have, like, an
Wow.
assistant?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so slow right now, but I definitely see the possibility of
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
being, like, very helpful later on.
So cool. I want to ask you about the automations really quick because I think for some people this is a little bit of like showing their underwear drawer. So don't, if you're not comfortable talking about it, no worries. But I've been very curious about how people are implementing, like what automations they're implementing in their workflows. What does
Mm,
that look like for you?
yeah. So for one of my clients, he has a podcast. And
Hmm.
so I've created a make.com workflow that takes the transcript of the podcast with one of his guests and then uses Claude because Claude is really good with writing.
Hmm.
Uses Claude to pull out 3 main points from the conversation.
Hmm.
And what I do is I make it create the LinkedIn post. I make it create
Okay.
3 LinkedIn posts based on those 3 thoughts that it has. So it's like a 4-step workflow.
Got it.
Basically gets the content from so I upload a transcript file and then I press a button. And then the first
Hmm.
step is it reads in that Google Drive that there is a new file. And then
Hmm.
that's step 1. So it reads that's a new file and it takes it. And then step 2 is to translate that file into Claude. And
Hmm.
Claude will do its magic, which what I prompted it to do, which is to pull out 3 important points from that podcast transcript.
Okay.
And then step 3 is it will write. So after it's pulled 3 ideas, it's going to write 3 LinkedIn posts based on certain guidelines that I have prompted it. So I've given it guidelines on what makes a good LinkedIn post. And here are the 3 types of posts we need to make. We need to
Mm,
make an educational post. We need to make an authoritative post. We need to make a post that has this kind of hook. So I've already given it those guides. And then step 4 is it creates a new file in a different Google Drive that it uploads those transcripts. And so then
wow.
I can go in, not transcripts, but the LinkedIn posts. So that I
Yeah.
can go in and I can just see the posts and then I edit them
Hmm.
because I do think there needs to be a human editor. So I
Yeah.
edit them, but it makes my workflow a lot easier, especially
Yeah.
because this person is just they just want to put out content. So they're not
Right.
looking to really go viral. They're just looking just to put it out.
Hmm.
This workflow really works for them. But
Got it.
another workflow that I've seen work for others is to skip the step where Claude creates those posts, right? And it
Hmm.
just says, like, tell me the ideas and then give me exact quotes from those 3 main topics.
Mm,
And so instead, you're receiving the output of like, okay, main idea 1, main idea 2, main idea 3, and then you have exact quotes, and then you can write the LinkedIn post. So
got it.
that is another example of a workflow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then a new workflow that I've been using is so I have created a Telegram bot
Hmm.
for my ideas, and I'm creating an idea database.
Wow.
So I have so many ideas, as I'm sure we all do,
Yeah.
right? And I want to like write a LinkedIn post or I want to film a video, but I know if I do it right then and there, then I'm not going to actually do work that I have to do for a client. So I have to
Yeah.
just write down the idea and I'll do it
Yeah.
later. And I have trouble, as we all do, of like putting an idea like in a notes app, or maybe we put it in this Trello board or Notion, or it's all over the place. So like I've created this bot that ingests ideas, and then there's 2 types of ways that you can send it, like either through text or through a voice note. And if you're doing
Mm,
through voice note, then you have to use ChatGPT Whisper to transcribe it, because
mm,
voice notes actually it's just an audio file, it's not really text. So
right.
there has to be some transcription. And then I use a categorization approach of categorizing the ideas, maybe because I said LinkedIn and the idea, or I said YouTube video, and it
Hmm.
categorizes the ideas in a certain way. And then I have this idea database that I can go to and try to connect one of the hooks that I have with an idea. So that is a
Yeah.
another like automation that I've created.
I love that. You're such a wealth of knowledge. Like, I love it. It's amazing. Think I think also you do a really good job of breaking it down like in an approachable way. Because the biggest thing I hear from people is they're like, it's too much. I can't do it. There's so much to learn. And of course there is, but it's not as scary as it seems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not as scary, and what I would say is it always seems scary, but if you can just use AI as a thought partner, so or
Hmm.
an idea partner, and just talk to it, is that's the biggest advice that I always hear, is just to talk to it and just say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I have this idea for an app, how would I do this?"
Hmm.
And now you know, and now your listeners know that you can have this idea. I literally did this in Claude today. I was
Hmm.
like, I have this idea of this workflow, and I gave it all these ideas. And then I said, create a JSON file, and it created the file, and I
Hmm.
uploaded it, and it created all of the different modules of connectors that I just have to click and do an API for. But people
Yeah.
sell these automations for like thousands of dollars.
Right.
So at a certain point, like, you can create them and you can just hire someone, if you're, like, slightly knowledgeable of how it works, like, where you can just say, "Okay, I get how it works, but I just don't wanna go through the manual process of uploading the API, like, where's an
Hmm.
API key? I don't know. I don't wanna look through developer docs, like, that's so much work." Then that's when
Yeah.
I would hire someone, like, maybe on Upwork, who
Yeah.
could be, like, $15 an hour, and you
Right.
put like $200 down, but then you have this whole system that basically you developed,
Mhm.
and it's a lot cheaper when you have the framework and the
Mhm.
wireframe. It's a lot cheaper if you when you already have the wireframe and how it would work when you give it to someone to say like, "Hey, can you just, like, make all the connections happen?"
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. That's so smart, so smart. Everybody on the podcast. Do you have a book or a resource or a course that you can recommend to kind of budding entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. It
Mhm.
is called The Artist's Way,
Mm.
and it is a spiritual kind of book
Mhm.
that unlocks, like, the creative power within you.
Yeah.
But this book is referenced by Cody Sanchez, the AppSumo creator, Noah Kagan, Tim Ferriss, 4 Hour Workweek guy. This book is one of their only books that they will recommend in their, like, 9 other self-improvement business books. This
Yeah.
book, and it is a 12-week process of you writing every single day, 3 pages of stream of consciousness, just
Mm.
writing, writing. And I did that around March of last year, and by day 3, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to start writing these thoughts online. And
Hmm.
that's what helped me actually get into a 120-day writing streak on LinkedIn
Yeah.
because I like started writing in a journal realizing, I can just I can just do this online, and I think the
Yeah.
future of business is sharing your story and sharing,
Mhm.
like, what you're going through and helping people on
Yeah.
social media, and so that's why I think that this book is so transformative because it
Mhm.
is kind of like a deep inner knowledge of yourself and also using that knowledge to find what you actually want to provide in the world, which is sometimes the hardest part of business is finding out what is the value you want to bring. But if you can spend 90 days every single day talking to yourself, you're going to find some type of value that you keep writing about over and over and over again. And that will be your guiding star.
Well, Lauren Gibson, I'm so excited I gotta have you on. Like I said, I feel like I've had a celebrity on the podcast. Like
Oh,
you're
you're
such
so
a
nice.
you're such a bright light and you're so easy to chat to and I love your LinkedIn posts. Where can people find you and connect with you?
Thank you, Emily. And like I said before we started recording, I felt so happy to get on this pod because I feel like every person you have on, you just light them up. So it's a two-way street. And
Thank
so yeah, people can find me on LinkedIn where we
you. Mhm.
found each other. So I think my handle right now is Link with Lauren. And
Cute.
you can also find me in my newsletter Connections, where I write about connecting people, ideas, and technology. And as I discussed earlier, I believe this is where we are headed. The importance of the future of work is being able to connect with other people because this is one thing that AI cannot do. So if you
Mhm.
want to learn more about that, that can be found at newsletter.joinconnections.
Amazing. And that'll all be in the show notes as well. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. I'm so glad that we got to do this. And it's been a great, great chat, great episode.
Yeah, Emily, thank you so much. And I should also just mention probably that also, like, you can connect with me on Instagram, which
Yeah.
I'm now only starting to promote, which is lightning.lauren. And a lot of people don't know how to spell lightning. So just look it up if you like forget. And it's okay. There's no judgment, but you're not
Yeah.
alone in
Yeah.
that.
Lightning, I think, right?
Yes, it's
Okay.
the end that misses people. And then
Yeah.
yeah. So you got it.
I'm a good speller, so that was my one opportunity to like
That's
I'm like, can't miss
amazing.
this opportunity.
Yeah, that's amazing. Spelling bee queen
So
over
dumb.
here. Secret spell.